Hey there and welcome to yet another test of Sienna's staves. Today we're on the final staff, the beam staff, and most people would say that this is the most powerful weapon in Sienna's arsenal, maybe the strongest ranged weapon in the game. So at the end of this video I'm going to do a review of how it went and where I think its place is on the battlefield, and in the video I'm going to show you what it's actually like to use it against champion difficulty enemies. But before we get into it, this weapon is a little more complex in that it has 3 attacks. Its traits are Sniper, Crowd Control, and Damage Over Time. The Sniper just means it zooms in when you're using the charge attack, Damage Over Time sets them on fire, and Crowd Control obviously means it's good at controlling crowds. But, like I said, it has 3 attacks. The left click you have to hold down, and it is a long-ranged beam. Now, while you're doing this, if you click the right click, which would be a charge attack, you will let out a bolt of fire. Now, its third attack is a shotgun effect. It is very close ranged. If you click and hold the right click, or the charge attack, and then left click, that is how you use the shotgun attack on it. So, with 3 attacks, this is going to be a fair bit of testing and reviewing. But now, let's actually get into it. And there are some more Plague Monks. They just tend to charge right on through that beam. It's not going to flinch or stun them. So they can really hamper the beam staff. Oh, and there's a Blightstormer up there, who we can really easily take down because the beam staff is just a direct line of damage. Oh, that is a fair bit of armor. Let's get started. So you can see this is actually pretty decent damage on them, taking them down very easily. But I've already built up a fair bit of heat, although that heat did amount to 4 Stormvermin kills, so that's actually not too bad. Now the shotgun effect I would not say is fantastic against armor. It's much better for a close ranged horde or a close ranged Blightstormer. As you can see, it does so much damage, it just absolutely annihilates the few that are in front of you. And this beam in close quarters can really hold them back. They do make ground eventually, but they're going to be severely damaged and burning once they actually do get through. And I can always go up to them with a shotgun and push them back. And it nicely sends them cartwheeling. And again, great performance against specials, even at a close ranged. Generally this is a long ranged weapon, but you can really quickly use that snipe ability and it'll get a solid flinch on just about anyone. My accuracy wasn't fantastic there, but with a shotgun you don't really need to be. Alright, there's a Kaos Warrior. So, this beam is not getting through him, but you can pretty easily just keep it on his head. And that snipe, that gets through the armor. You do set him on fire, but again, it's a Kaos Warrior, his armor is just gonna completely resist that fire. But ultimately, he went down pretty easily. He was alone though, so I could focus all my attention onto him. Alright, there's a horde coming. Oh, and they're already behind me. And they're a bit spread out. This is where the beam staff can suffer a bit. If a horde gets spread out, you've really got to swing it around to get them, and you will set them on fire pretty easily. But it can be just... there are other weapons that perform a little better. You also have to be careful using the shotgun attack. Sometimes if you use it too quickly, like you would have just seen, I use a snipe instead, and that's just going to be a waste of heat that close. That generally happens if, once you've done the shotgun, you hold down the light attack, or in this case the beam, then it supersedes it and uses the snipe. But as long as you take your time, you should be able to easily just get that shotgun repeatedly out. Ooh, that is indeed a horde. Let's get burning. So you can see that this weapon doesn't have massive flinch. It does flinch them, and you can hold a group in place, but if the group's too big, they will charge through it pretty easily. And here comes a patrol, so let's see how it does against them. Well, I think I've set every single one of them on fire, but they are already right next to me. Alright, let's get this bomb out. Okay, hopefully that wave of fire will hold them back. And I can use that snipe pretty effectively on them, but when there's so many of them, I'd say other weapons are a bit better. So against that patrol, the beam staff pretty quickly set all of them on fire, and I got some decent snipe damage in, which can also pierce, so you can take down multiple storm vermin at once. But ultimately, they were able to push through towards me and my team pretty quickly there. And now that they're in close range, let's get the shotgun out. You can see that just annihilates them. It costs a fair bit of heat, but you get them in a nice clump. It's a shotgun, it's gonna take them down. One bad thing about this weapon is if you want to use the beam in close quarters, because it has that snipe effect, you zoom in a lot and it can be kind of disorienting. And if you don't have much heat to spare, you kind of have to do that because the shotgun takes so much. Or you can just switch to the melee weapon. Yep, that storm vermin got annihilated. Really, before he could even react, he was taken down. And you might have just noticed, in the distance there, the armor did resist my beam. That's because eventually the drop-off is going to affect the damage so much that the armor can take it. This isn't an armor-piercing weapon. I'm just strong enough that on champion, the beam does get through the armor sometimes. Alright, we have some healing to burn through, so let's do the overheat test. This is just with the snipe. So this actually isn't generating that much heat. You can get a fair few snipes in. There we go. There was actually quite a few snipes I could get in before I overheated. Okay, let's vent all of this and then do the shotgun test. So that was 10 shotguns to overheat me. That's not too bad, but in a horde, you don't really always have time to vent your overcharge, so that can be pretty costly. But if the horde's very clumped up, it's definitely worth the cost. Anyway, we've got all our tomes, so let's head on through. And again, this weapon's really good when you get it at headshot level. I'm just awful at headshots. I'm just going to move straight up to the cannon because that's where the next objective is and I don't feel like waiting around at the gate. Although, alright, apparently they need my help. One thing about the beam staff is it's not really the kind of weapon where you just jump in like that. Yeah, even with that shotgun, jumping right on the heads of about 20 enemies, the shotgun's not going to do much good because you're going to have to be spinning around constantly to actually hit everyone surrounding you. I am hitting these storm vermin down here, so it's a pretty solid range and still pretty decent damage at that range. Alright, here's a boss. We didn't get one in the first time I played through it, so I've come looking for another. Gotta have this as part of the test. Alright, beam staff, take him down. So, oh god, the actual beam itself doesn't seem to do a massive amount of damage on the boss. Jeez. The snipe isn't all that bad. Let's see if we can test out that shotgun. Alright. Alright, yeah, that shotgun is not doing much against him. And with the beam staff, it is especially difficult when the boss is paying attention to you. With other staffs like the fireball, you can pretty easily get out some solid damage, even with the boss on you. But the beam staff is significantly hampered when the boss is looking straight at you. But if you can keep this beam on him uninterrupted, that will do solid damage. It's just a bit of a difficult situation right now. Alright, so that is how it performs against a boss. The beam wasn't super effective, the shotgun was useless, the snipe was decent and good on a headshot. The beam was good so long as I could do it uninterrupted, but as soon as he was paying attention to me, that was pretty much a game over for my damage. I was forced to switch to a melee weapon there. That was also because it's such a close quarters area, made it even more difficult to actually escape him. Alright, there we go, that is the beam staff, so now I'm going to go over how I felt it did and its pros and cons. To start off, it has very good range. It has 2 long-ranged attacks and 1 close-ranged attack, so that means it's going to perform at every range there is. It's good against specials. With that direct beam that goes a long way, you can immediately clock onto a special and just keep them down, and then slam that snipe ability into them to really finish them. And if they get close, you can just shotgun blast them away. Against hordes, it is a pretty solid choice. I'm not fantastic with headshots, but if you can get good with them, the beam staff will perform very well. You can just keep a constant, steady amount of damage at head level, and if they're getting too close, blast them away with that shotgun. Against armored enemies, I'd say it doesn't perform well. Against Chaos Warriors, it really doesn't have a place. The snipe ability will get through the armor and do damage, but ultimately my preference would be a melee weapon. Against Storm Vermin, the beam can armor pierce if you have enough power, but at a distance with that range damage drop off, it's gonna reduce that effect. The snipe is pretty solid against Storm Vermin. You can cut through a few of them, or just annihilate one of them, but the shotgun doesn't do a huge amount of damage to them. It can get a nice flinch though. Against bosses, the beam staff can struggle. It can get good damage out with that beam if you can steadily keep it on the boss and you have your team screening for you. But if that boss starts paying attention to you, it's going to be pretty difficult to do that. Both of its power attacks aren't that great. The shotgun doesn't really do a thing against a boss. The snipe does have decent damage, but is difficult to use when a rat ogre is charging you. Because of most of its attacks, you can get swarmed with it. The shotgun is good at blasting enemies away, but if you're surrounded from all angles, it's not going to get you out of that. You'll have to try and cut through one direction and then you're leaving yourself pretty exposed from behind. Or you can just switch to a melee weapon. If you want a good all-rounder for the battlefield, absolutely pick the beam staff. It's also a pretty good support because you can just stay behind, and if your teammates keep you safe, that beam will do a lot of damage if you just keep it out there taking down enemies. Ultimately, it might just be my personal style, but I'm not a fan of the beam staff. The fireball is my favorite, the conflagration is a close second, and the beam staff just isn't on my radar. But that might be different for you. I know a lot of people do like this weapon, so let me know what you think of it. Let me know where you think its place on the battlefield lies, and if you agree with some of my points, disagree with them, maybe I'm completely wrong, let me know. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.